Ladies and gentlemen, the American Jeering Bulldog Nation, welcome to the new year. Today's January 2nd, and we start the Eric Dieter Show all over again for 2025. And unfortunately, on New Year's Eve night, an American citizen who's a Muslim, with a very much Muslim name, who served in Afghanistan, who had lots of woes, who's obviously been radicalized, who had an ISIS flag in his truck, drove through on Canal and Bourbon Street into the crowd that was celebrating at 3 a.m. And over 15 have been killed, over 30 have been injured. Terrible, terrible scene. He also had inside of his truck some detonation devices, and they found explosives throughout the area. He died in gunfire with law enforcement. And we don't know all the details yet, but the FBI has said he did not act alone. So they're apparently hot to trot, trying to find out who else was involved, capture them, and we'll see where this all goes. However, I just see this as another example of us not being protected. And of course, you know, Joe Biden comes out and says all the same damn stuff these politicians spew out of their mouths. And then they tell us, well, he was posting some things on Facebook. Explain to me how this guy can post terrorist stuff on Facebook and you and I get sanctioned, suppressed for saying we love Donald Trump, the world we live in. Meanwhile, there was an explosion in Vegas, and this just came out yesterday. I got the kid's name. His name is Leivelsberger, Matthew Leivelsberger. He's 37, and he also served in the Army. And this was a Tesla Cybertruck outside Trump Tower. He blew himself up. Everything got blown up. One killed, many injured. They both apparently used to rent these vehicles the same app. My guess is these could be two isolated folks who wanted to do something on New Year's Eve, or they're part of a group and God only knows what else is coming. I'm somebody who believes that there's a whole bunch more coming, because what Joe Biden has done in this country, allowing these type of individuals to grow strong, is pathetic. The Turo app, I've never used it. Have you used it? Apparently that's one common denominator between the two of them. Meanwhile, Donald Trump celebrated New Year's Eve at Mar-a-Lago, including with Elon Musk. He had a big old crowd down there, about 300, where he celebrated. New York, can't make this up. There were about 100 pro-Palestinians on Times Square protesting what happened in New Orleans in a negative way. In other words, in support of this terrorism act. Basically saying it's the only way. Calling for more acts of terrorism. Can't make it up. Speaker Johnson has been endorsed by Donald Trump, but you still got people like Chip Roy and Thomas Massie. I want you to think about this for a minute. Massie and Roy and Rand Paul and the whole gang, they're always about government spending, 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 spending. We finally elect a president, Donald Trump, who creates a Department of Government Efficiency led by Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, where they're going to take a chainsaw to the bureaucracy. But that's not good enough. It's not good enough. It never is good enough with these nerdy freaking dweebs. Maybe next time when I run against Massie, or I run for governor, or I run for McConnell's seat, or somebody else runs against Massie, Trump will endorse them and they will win. That's my belief. Jimmy Carter's funeral is coming up. Donald Trump's going to go there, and I'm sure he's going to gloat. Why? George Bush is going to be there. Obama's going to be there. The Clintons are going to be there. Biden's going to be there. It's going to be great. D.C. rally, January 19th, Trump's having. He's getting criticized for this, but here's my spiel. The January 19th rally gives him an opportunity to let MAGA come in force, and probably increases the crowd at the inaugural, which you know Trump's going to want to be the largest of all time. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, according to billionaire Bill Ackman, is probably going to go private under Trump. A Georgia judge on his last day in office killed himself on the bench. Pretty bad. United Healthcare CEO is bragging about how much money they're going to make. Unfreaking believable. Steve Bannon, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm one of the few people, folks, that the InfoWars guy, Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, all of them, they're too much. Marjorie Greene Taylor, they're just too much. They're never satisfied. They're like the same way as Massey and Roy in a different way. I mean, Bannon's going after Musk. Trump wouldn't have been elected unless it was for Musk. All he did was to get out the vote, billions of dollars, et cetera, et cetera. Just shut up, Steve. Shut up. Madoff victims apparently got the last of their billions. Can't make it up. They got back like 90 to 95% of all the money that they lost. They did. Thanks to taxpayers. I don't understand it. Putin, he's saying if you want to go fight in the army, I'll forgive all your debts. That's some desperation. You got to ask yourself this question. Death with no debt or life with debt? Explosives have been found on a Virginia farm, like lots of explosives. Telling you folks, kind of close to the old Washington, D.C., right? And Susie Wiles, in her brilliance, sent out an email to all Trump cabinet nominees. No more social media posting without our approval. Smart. And Mike Lindell's been sued by the cash advance guy who lent him $1.5 million. Mike Lindell, I'm telling you, heart's in the right place, always supported, but I am so sick and tired of promo code. He's made me hate the word promo code. And what I don't understand about this guy is this. He's in trouble. He gets money. Then he bitches about it. I'm going to tell you something. I owe people money. You know what I don't do about the people that I owe money to? Treat them like hell. Publicly blast them. What do? I communicate to them and I thank them every freaking day. Mike Lindell is blasting this guy, cash advance, about the loan and probably the interest terms. Well, Mike, beggars can't be choosers. And I'm still blown away that somebody like Mike Lindell, where he is, can't get some help from somebody in the Trump orbit. But then again, I've learned, folks, rich people don't lend money. They don't. It's kind of sad, too, in a way. This is the Bulldog. Every dog has their day. Coming up next, local. All right. Regardless of what state you live in, but particularly Kentucky and Ohio, do you know what new laws go into effect today? There's too many to report. But you might want to Google new laws that go into effect today, because a whole bunch of new laws go into effect today. Pot and guns. You ready for this? Federal law says you cannot own a gun if you own pot. Use pot, sell pot. Why? Think about that. You can own a fifth of vodka. You can own all the guns you want. I swear to God, the stupid damn rules that let you. You know why there's stupid laws? Money by lobbyists that convinced politicians to pass stupid laws. So stupid. And all the Cincinnati tri-state hospitals are not being transparent on their pricing as they're supposed to do under law. Scary story. Rob Sanders, who I see at Planet Fitness in Fort Wright from time to time, according to the testimony at the preliminary hearing last week, Brian Tucker actually followed him in to Planet Fitness a few times. Said he was going to stab him. It's wild. I told Rob, I said, Rob, I think about it all the time. I said, people worry about a gunshot. I said, in close quarters, nobody even hears a knife wound. Boom. You could be sitting there doing a bench press. Somebody goes, cut your jugular. You're dead. You're bleeding out. Nobody even hears it. It's kind of scary stuff. Coming up next, Jamie Spinley and his World News Report.
Hello. I hope everybody had a fantastic holiday. Happy New Year to you all. The latest world headlines. A deadly New Year's Day attack in New Orleans, French Quarters, where a pickup truck plowed into crowds, killing 15 and injuring dozens. The driver, a U.S. Army veteran from Texas, was killed in a shootout with the police. Investigators linked the attack to the Islamic State group after discovering an Islamic flag in the truck. Terrible. A gunman in southern Montenegro killed 12 people, including 2 children, during a New Year's Day shooting spree. The attacker, aged 45, had been drinking heavily before a dispute at the restaurant. Following the allegations, he retrieved a weapon from his home and returned to the restaurant, where he opened fire on the diners. In other news, paleontologists have uncovered the UK's largest dinosaur trackway in Oxfordshire Quarry. The site contains 200 massive footprints dating back to 166 million years ago. The tracks were left by 2 types of dinosaurs, the long-necked Siderosaurus and the Megalosaurus. And Trinidad and Tobago has imposed a state of emergency as escalating gang violence threatens public safety in the Caribbean nation yet again. You're up to date on the world news. Coming up next, Sports Without Boundaries. Cheerio.
Okay, Sports Without Boundaries. We got a lot of sports to report. Let's fly through it. Saquon Barkley is not going to play in the final game of the year for the Eagles, even though he's like 100 yards away from the record. However, there would be an asterisk next to the record of Eric Dickerson, 2,100 some odd yards. Why? Dickerson did it in 14 games. So Saquon really isn't breaking the record. Texas beat Arizona State 39-31. And the running back from Arizona State, what a hell of a game. I saved the numbers around here. He threw for a touchdown, caught a bunch of passes, including, I think, one for a touchdown, and ran for like 150 yards, all while sick as hell. What a game that was in overtime. Ohio State blew out Oregon 41-21. Oregon got a raw deal. Number 1 seed. First game, they play Ohio State. Penn State 31, Boise State 14. Proving why Boise State, just like SMU and a couple other teams, did not belong. Xavier in basketball beat Seton Hall 94-72. Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia in New Orleans has been postponed till 4 o'clock today. I will be home in time to watch it. NKU in overtime over Purdue Fort Wayne, 69-68. The Bengals are going to have to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. Guess who's playing for the Chiefs against the Broncos? Carson Wentz. But you know what? He's a former starter. I still got hope that the backups of the Chiefs can beat the Broncos. Rodgers, he's going to play, might be his last game of the Jets. We need him to beat the Dolphins in cold weather. And I like the fact that Rodgers might want to go out on a winning note. Dak Prescott got about $40,000 in jewelry and whatnot stolen from his home. University of Kentucky blew out Brown at Rupp Arena, 88-54. The lovely Loretta Little, my secretary, was at the game. LSU 44, Baylor 31. Louisville 35, Washington 34 in a bowl game. Lions, this was on Monday Night Football, beat the 49ers 40-34. They're going to be playing Minnesota for the conference championship. Dallas Cowboys let Zeke go. Why? So he can maybe get on a playoff team. And Michigan beat Bama 19-13. So there you have it. Lots of sports. Coming up next, pop culture. Well, we had a little drama with Jeff Bezos, the second richest man in the world. Apparently, some law enforcement, customs people, went out on his famous yacht. Apparently, this is routine for checking things. However, I'm sure these guys were like, hey, let's go inspect that yacht. A Michigan couple, this is wild, Sabrina. Did you hear about this? They're 66 years old. One dies in an ice fishing incident, and the woman, his wife, 66 years old, on the way to pick him up, dies in a car accident. That is wild. You know, the saddest thing that I've ever seen, and they ought to do a movie about this, although it'd be a sad movie, is a Kentucky sheriff, back-to-back, was on the scene of his daughter and his son in separate accidents that were both killed in the same night. Something crazy. David Letterman said when he went home to Indiana, he became a better person and life is better. Let me tell you something about this. And I have some experience with this. I've been to big fancy mansions of famous people. I have been at the White House. I have been to special things. I was at 700 WLW radio, you know, like Daryl Park says, you pull down the curtain. When you reach these certain things, once you get there, there's always this feeling of, okay, been there, done that. It's all fleeting. So I think it's pretty cool that David Letterman's like, you know what? I've been happier as an average Joe. But you know what happens, so many of us like me, is you have to strive, because if you're not striving, you're miserable too. Some things you don't know until you don't know them. All right, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's divorce is finally final. Will Ferrell attended a Kings hockey game dressed up like Buddy the Elf. He said that it was a bad year. The Accountant 2 is coming out. I don't know if you ever saw The Accountant 1. It stars Ben Affleck. It is one of the best movies of all time. And they're going to come out with an Accountant 2. 7 tons of cocaine was found buried on a farm. Sabrina, if you found 7 tons of cocaine buried in your backyard in Falmouth, would you turn it in or would you try to sell it?
I wouldn't touch it.
You wouldn't touch it?
No. I don't know what I would do.
All right, I saw a movie over the holidays. Complete Unknown. Bob Dylan biopic. It is extraordinary. It is wonderful. It is a great movie. I know more about Bob Dylan than I did before, and it was done so damn well. Go see it. This is the Bulldog. Every dog has their day. I hope 2025 is your year.